Sports stories from the 419 in Northwest Ohio, brought to you by a voice you know. It's time to go around the area and around the Hearn.
Hello there. Hi there. Welcome to a new edition of Around the Hearn, and it's a different sort of thing. If you have been a longtime listener of this program, you'll know that a couple of years ago, now 3, on this Friday, that my best friend Aaron Matthews passed away, and I spent the next month or so putting together people talking about him, and it's just a great tribute to an amazing man, and I hope that you're able to go back and to find it and to listen to it. I'll tweet it and Facebook and all that, but it's a in-depth look from other people about something that's really hard to talk about at times. I struggle around the holidays because, like everybody, I miss so many great people, and Aaron is definitely one of those that took a chance on a punk 15-year-old kid and just kind of led him along and helped him do what he wanted to do in life. It was to be on the radio. It was to eventually do play-by-play and to help and to learn. And the time in the car and the stories that I can tell are just are ridiculous. I mean, I went through, full disclosure, my hard drive and found just some absolutely ridiculous things. But something I wanted to share this week about my dear friend is this podcast. We recorded this back in 2016, and it's really hard to interview your friends. I'll be totally honest, because you have 8 million inside jokes that you try not to tell. You have 8 million stories that you can only tell a part of for one reason or another, because everybody's got those friends. And, you know, Aaron was that dude for me, and I miss him dearly, and I hope that you get to know him a little better and get to understand kind of the Aaron Mulaski version of the man and a husband and the father that I knew. And just, I hope you enjoy this, really, because it's a trip down memory lane. I forgot some of this, to be honest with you. I listened to it and I laughed, and the end cracked me up. And it's just, tell me about your friendship. It's pretty much the next hour. That's how it goes. I hope you enjoy. Welcome back to the second edition here of the play-by-play stories, and you heard from Don Wadowitz. You heard a lot from Don Wadowitz. We did not intend for that to go that long, so hopefully you enjoyed it, but you can ask him. We sat down, and he said, about 30 minutes? I said, yeah, okay. And it turned into an hour and a half. But hopefully it was good information, and that's kind of how the next guy is, too, and a guy that off and on, depending on what day it is, I think a lot of. The guy I consider one of my mentors in life, and Aaron Matthews. If you don't know, the voice of, let's say, half of Lima. I think Todd Walker's got the other half.
Yeah, me and Todd got Lima pretty much on lock. And we're both on vacation at the same time, which was not planned, by the way.
Hopefully he's coming up in this series, too, because he's another one of my favorite people, and another one of those people who, like Aaron, like Don, if you ask them a question, you're going to get the answer. It might not necessarily be the answer you want, but it's the answer you actually asked for. I think that's a good thing.
It can be.
A lot of people don't.
Get you in trouble sometimes, but what the hell?
Well, yeah. So, if we start from the beginning looking at this, a lot of people know we've known each other for at least half my life.
A long time.
Whether you are to blame or to thank for me being in broadcasting is up to everyone else.
A little bit of both.
Depends on what day it is.
Yeah, depending, yeah.
A little bit of you, a little bit of Jim Hyatt.
Yeah.
Either way.
He's a riot, allegedly.
So, kind of, we, in a way, have similar stories in terms of number of years where I was 16 when I did a very colorful internship. And you were, what, 14 when you started in radio?
14. Ironically, the day I was hired Into the business was the day that Michael Jordan retired from the Chicago Bulls in October of 1993. Went on the air a month later, doing Sunday morning news. And you want to talk about train wrecks of epic proportions? I should have been fired after my first newscast. It was that bad.
I think that's everybody's story,
Yeah.
though. I'm pretty sure everybody can look at their first broadcast and go, how did I keep getting jobs?
Mhm.
Like, did nobody listen to that?
Well, my first newscast, the one thing that vividly sticks out to me, and I had no desire to want to go into news or anything like that, but I used for the term euthanasia, which is the right to die. I'd never heard of the word before. I called it insanthia. So I had an air check the following day. They're like, "What's insanthia?" I'm like, "I don't know." Read the story. They're like, "That's euthanasia. That means the right to die." Boy, you messed that up, but we're going to help you.
Well, I guess if mispronouncing a word badly
Yeah.
is your one critique, then I guess you got through it all right.
Well, it was bad. It was very bad. And those, actually, ironically, those cassette tapes, yes, they were a thing back then. You might not realize that now. But my
Google
mom,
it, kids.
Yeah, my mom actually has those tapes, refuses to give them to me because I want to digitize them, refuses to even hand them over. I think she's afraid I'm going to burn them.
Yeah. The same people, I have the same conversation with the people who have my tapes from when I was younger, too.
Mhm.
They think I'm going to destroy them. But it is one of those things, though, where we talk all the time about every broadcast is an opportunity to learn from your mistakes in the previous one. Well, if you don't screw up, and if you have a perfect broadcast, you should probably stop.
I've never had one of those.
I think that's just because we look at it in a completely different way. Like, oh, you can always improve. And I think even, well, if you look at the Olympics, a lot of those guys are probably learning some things.
Yeah.
Further proof that no matter how good you are, you still make mistakes. So going back a little bit, after you get through that newscast, it starts to get better, right?
Yeah, it does. And by the beginning, mind you, I was a freshman in high school at that point. Fast forward to that summer, we're 2 weeks away from school starting, and the radio station I'm working at, small town Indiana, about 15,000 people. The afternoon position comes open. The afternoon guy takes a gig in Charlotte, North Carolina, doing overnights in an oldie station. So good for him. Afternoon position comes open. They need somebody to do it. Well, low man on the totem pole, Mr. Weekend Boy, gets the opportunity at 15 years old to do afternoons. The best part was the afternoon shift was 3 to 7, and I was in school till 3:10. So thanks to some creative wiggle room between my family, my school counselors, and the radio station, I got to leave school 15 minutes early to be on the air at 3 o'clock every day. So did that for the betterment of 6-7 months.
The lesson here is stay in school, kids, or you end up in radio.
Yeah, and don't smoke crack either.
And I think a lot of people would probably make that same joke.
Yeah.
Not the crack joke, the radio joke.
Well, we can make that because my boys are actually in the room while we're doing this podcast as well. So
Please voice your displeasure to @Matthews_show.
on Twitter.
Or
I'll let you
@Wienerman46. He handles our complaints. That is our official complaint department of this show. We haven't gotten any, so Don must not have said anything too bad.
Yeah, it's Don.
But
It's a Scotty in him.
that's true. He brought me root beer, so we're okay with that. But, I mean, it's an interesting thing where it is an odd thing because, to me, it's a parallel of, all right, so at first, didn't really go well. I'm sure, well, I think I had a lot more fun at 16 than you probably did.
I know damn good and well you had more fun because you were hanging with me. It was Friday night scoreboard show. Basically doing 3 breaks an hour. We were doing scores of the high school football games, and basketball as well. And it was mass chaos. That's the best way to put it.
Those are the tapes that are in the basement that have not seen the light of day.
You have those, don't you?
Maybe somewhere?
Thought I gave you those. I
No.
digitized those.
Maybe.
I'll get the external drive. I know a place where it is.
I've moved a couple times.
I got you the hookup.
Yeah. After that, you pretty much have done throw a dartboard at ideas and have probably done a little bit of all of that.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate, been very blessed now, going on year number 23. Yeah, 23 coming up in October, carry the one. Afternoons, mornings, middays, nights, overnights, multiple formats, multiple genres, and, have been lucky to, dabble in play-by-play and try to be as best
Multiple
I can.
names over the years.
Names, faces.
My personal favorite being Billy Bob.
Oh, God. Do we have to tell the Billy Bob
No,
story?
I'm just saying. He was once known as Billy Bob.
Yes, I did. I did a country station named that went as Billy Bob on the air, and it worked.
And if you've met him, you understand why that's funny.
I would give it a 10, but God rest his soul. I know I would force him out, but I don't even do that
You
anymore.
just turned this podcast into a whole different thing. That's pretty much how we thought this would go. So, the big point of this is that we've known each other for a long time, and I have wanted to do this for a long time, but sometimes I think when you try and put things that have happened over the years into words, it doesn't do it justice.
Mm-hmm.
But I have learned a lot, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, about how to do things or not how to not do things.
Yeah.
In some of our adventures, both radio and not.
Absolutely. Yeah. The road. I mean, the people that you've whether it be from an internship perspective or just secondhand, being around different groups of people, seeing different styles of management, seeing different things, from inside the business perspective. Yeah, I mean, it's a course of all sorts of different stuff that I would call it a potpourri, so to speak. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some good, some not so good, and that's one of the things about the business, in my opinion, is that you can use those to evolve. Both the good and the bad. Yeah, exactly.
Better. Otherwise, it'll be a very short tenure.
It can be.
Enjoy your job at Menards.
They watch you from afar, allegedly.
Well, I mean, you can say big money. It's just a good idea. So, okay, so you mentioned something. I've never thought to ask you this. How did you end up doing play-by-play then?
Well, you part of the evolution. Was my first play-by-play gig came in Indiana, small town Indiana, about a month in.
They're all small towns.
Not
it's
all.
Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Valparaiso, and that's pretty much it.
Evansville.
Evansville, yeah.
So,
South
long story short, my first ball game was with a guy by the name of Mike Montgomery, and he was the voice of the Logansport Berries, the high school I attended in Indiana, and was a freshman. And
which, by the way, I want to point this out. I've known Aaron for almost 20 years, and until 2 months ago, I did not know that the name of the high school was the Berries. Until I happened to see it at Arsenal Tech High School in Indianapolis.
Yes. All sorts of great nicknames in Indiana. But anyways, our color guy came down with laryngitis and couldn't speak and needed somebody to help out with stats and, just general, stuff. So I did quarter stats, threw in a couple things here and there, and it just stuck. And I got the opportunity to do some stuff there. And then a couple of years later, we moved to Mount Vernon, Ohio. My first play-by-play gig came there. I filled in on a basketball game there, but had done some stuff during the football season with a halftime show on site. And then did basketball. I did a girls' game, if I remember correctly. And then it just, off and on spot duty here and there, but it really picked up full tilt at WIMA and Lima Station that I was a part of, working with Todd Walker, working with Mike Mullen, and did some girls' basketball on the side on top of my other duties. And it's just something, being a sports guy, I always loved. And then I guess you could say a blessing in disguise came when the first real round of reduction in force, aka budget cuts, went down in 2006 with Clear Channel, now iHeartMedia.
There's probably a lot of radio guys listening to this cringing right now.
Oh,
I'm always bringing that up.
This was like some real early stuff that went down. I was let go. It sucked. It was horrible, but at the same time, it opened a door, which opened up other doors in the future, which was the opportunity to build and develop a semi-pro football broadcast, which at the time became only the third in the country and has blown up by leaps and bounds in the last 9-10 years since.
Well, that specific one did until the guy that replaced you went somewhere else.
Well, and ironically, that the guy that replaced me, I got to hand pick. I was given an opportunity to become a coach, which, from a broadcasting perspective, I loved that opportunity because it helped me learn more nuances, more inside stuff on the game, and look at the game from a different perspective as well, which I think has helped from a broadcast perspective too. And having a guy who was helping me out was really wanting to do more. Hey, here's this. I'm moving down the booth, and do you want to do this? Yeah, sure, okay. The same person, I think, at first kind of doubted the legitimacy of everything when they first saw it because it was kind of crazy and the scores were out of hand. But
yeah,
until you believe it, until you be part of it.
It's just like anything. And I was thinking this. Semi-pro is a pretty big part of my life, obviously, and it has been for the last handful of years. And if you haven't put it together yet, it's me that he's talking about. In case you're coloring outside the lines, I didn't get it at first, but now, if you're doing it the right way, and Don's a big one to talk to, and you could go back and listen to an episode with Racine, who is just an amazing program and entity by itself because they're on the radio and they draw 3,000 people. Again, you can listen to Don tell it, but I didn't see that at first, and then now it's kind of funny because it helped me see radio and how internet radio especially has grown since then.
Absolutely. Oh my God, yes.
And then ironically, I mean, that's in a, I don't know, I'm a big thing on if you can point to one specific event, you can draw a whole bunch of things off of that. If you kind of go backwards and you look at it and you go, well, that for you leads to a lot of things for me, because after that I start working with Z Sports Live and then, everything else. But so it's kind of weird how one event you don't realize later on kind of shapes a whole lot of things.
Yeah, it does. And the opportunities that came about, from launching the Lima Warriors, online broadcast and all that other stuff. And then what that led into, for me, getting back in the game in radio in small town America, Lima, Ohio, and then seeing, things progress there. I never thought that when I, took the position just, being the play-by-play voice of Lima Central Catholic, that it would blow up and evolve into what it did, not just from the LCC broadcast perspective, but with the company as well, as, programming 2 radio stations, getting back in that game as a program director and overseeing day-to-day operations, but, having my hands in other things and also getting to branch out even more and evolve doing TV stuff. And I think that that's one of the things. It's similar. Broadcasting and pro wrestling have some similarities.
I say that all the time
because
people that aren't in both don't understand that.
And having been in both at one time as well, having done some TV doing wrestling TV broadcasting, doing ring announcing, stuff like that. In order to stay relevant, you have to reinvent, re-evolve yourself, so to speak. I mean, if you look at The Undertaker, look at how many times he, quote-unquote, reinvented himself. And, even returning back to that dead man persona, he found a way to continually evolve his character, keep it fresh. And you've got to do that, whether it's broadcasting, whether it's wrestling, whether it's sports, no matter what. If you're digging a ditch, you got to find a way to keep yourself relevant, keep your business relevant, because that's how you make money. It's how you stay in business.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of a thing where I have been lucky enough to talk to a lot of young broadcasters, and everybody. My thing is always, if you ask me for advice, I'm not Vince Scully,
right?
But I'll tell you what I've learned.
Absolutely.
And that's always been my thing is, all right, you just have to keep doing things.
Yeah.
And not every opportunity is going to be, thousands of dollars and, the perfect situation, whatever, but you're going to be in crappy places. You're going to be around people who are making your life a pain to do this game, but you know what? The guy sitting at home doesn't care.
Nope.
He doesn't care how far you drove. He doesn't care you slept for 2 hours, or, Don had a thing where a team did not provide him with a roster. So he went and made up his own roster. And, hey, that was going to be that. They gave him the roster the day of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to do what you got to do. You've got to keep your nose to the grindstone, so to speak, in that regard. But I mean, there's all sorts of things. I mean, they can look at you and be like, "Oh, who cares?" I mean, they don't care. The person listening doesn't care that you're doing the game outside of the press box. They don't care that you're sitting there in 90-degree heat with a towel on your head to keep your neck and head from getting sunburned, even if you have a hat on. They don't care about that. All they care about is what's going on at that moment when they're tuned in. Whether their team is up, their team is down, who has the ball, who just did what. They don't. That's what they care about at that moment. They're coming to you for that information.
Well, I think it's until you get to the point that everybody wants to get to where you build enough equity, you become a quote-unquote voice of a team, and then, all right, people might not necessarily be listening because they've had a kid that graduated or what have you, but you've gotten to the point with them where they still enjoy you, so they'll tune in because, oh, we like him. Oh, he sounds like he's having a bad day. Oh, let me hit him up on Twitter. And that's such a big thing, too, because even, 08, 09, when I started doing Lima Warriors, that wasn't as immediate as it is now. You can't have everything. But now, I mean, again, I go back to this because it's still going on, but the mishap about the pig comment at the Olympics.
Yeah.
That got taken out of context. Based on what the announcer said. That's an immediate thing. He got butchered immediately on Twitter.
And I didn't even hear it live. I'll be honest. The only thing I've really watched in extent has been Team USA basketball. I've had it on for bits and pieces. I had volleyball on the other night, and the reason being is I'm picking up some volleyball for TV. So
Same reason I was watching water polo.
Well, which is pretty cool. And the wife was actually watching that with me the other day. She's like, I don't understand. I said, I don't care. This stuff is cool. I enjoy it.
Well, and it's funny, too, because another big thing that we've always talked about is never be afraid to step outside the box and branch out to something that you go, I don't know if I really want to do this.
Right.
Well, water polo was one for me. And so now when I watch it, I go, okay. Well, I learn a little bit more every time. So now every time I do it, and I have another one coming up now, that
good for you.
It's just one of those things where continue to learn. Like I was reading, John Schleswig sent me an email today that went out, and he talks about the best advice that someone ever gave him was read a book a week to expand your vocabulary, expand your knowledge. It's little things like that kind of, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Continue to learn and continue to go outside the box so that you never know what your niche in life is going to be.
Right. And that's another thing. A great thing for football broadcasters. I'll pass this along with us. Being so close to the football season, whether it's high school, college. Watch NFL Network. Watch some of these preseason games. You don't have to watch the whole game, but just listen to how guys describe things. And a lot of times you've got radio guys that are doing TV for those, where they're going to describe things a little more because it is their nature. And they're going out of the box a little bit, just like a TV guy would be going out of the box doing radio, because they've got to be a little more descriptive as far as sights, sounds, descriptions, colors, yard placement, stuff like that. Whereas on TV, the viewer sees it, whereas in the radio world, you hear it.
Well, that leads into my next question. When the first time that you did TV, was that a hard thing for you in terms of, okay, I can knock down how I work a little bit? Because I know I've worked with a handful of TV stations where they've said, hey, I can tell you're a radio guy. Because of that same thing. You described the number. Well, you described the number on the jersey and then the trim on the outside. Whereas TV can just, oh, hey, look, it's red.
Right. Yeah, it was a little bit at first, and thankfully the guys I was doing it with, have worked with me some, and no way am I, by any stretch of the imagination, a polished TV guy, but I love doing it because it's a different challenge for me. I love challenges being thrown my way, and it's been fun. It's something that I enjoy. But to go back to what you were asking, Mike, it was one of those things at first. Yeah, I was. They said, you don't have to be as descriptive. You did a great job, but you don't have to. And they said it's the radio in you. The same thing, but that happens. And old habits sometimes can be hard to break, but it's good to evolve those habits because they make you better in the long run, no matter what you're doing.
We gained a partner.
I know.
So that leads to my question about him, about your son, is that. How did that change? Like, we're different in the span of, this is what I do. I don't have kids. We were just talking about scheduling. I have a crazy amount of driving coming up based on my own thing, but it's relaxing for me. But you now, the stuff that you're doing is closer to home since you got married and had kids.
Family changes things. And when I got married just over 10 years ago, which is still crazy, my wife had a son from her first marriage. It was my first marriage, but
who eats like a horse.
He's also my son as well. So, it's one of those things where you do keep the family dynamic to a perspective as well. And I don't have to, per se, be close to home to do a game. But if I want to take a night off from, the only thing I won't drop is a game for Lima Central Catholic as their voice. It's a part of my income with my regular job as well. But if I need to take a TV night game off for whatever reason, I'll do it. And I've done that and will continue, But back to, the kids, it's to be as cognizant as possible to where they know what's up with Dad. He's not far. He's working late tonight. He's doing a game. And at the same time, still making time for the family. And one of the things that I think has changed me for the better in this business is having that family aspect, and maybe it was the way I was raised as well, humbles you to the extent of, I want to be around my family. I've made some choices to the better. Not just, I'm not talking about gigs and stuff like that, but taking better care of myself. I'll use this as an example. I only drink pop whenever I have pizza, and that's the only time I drink, just stuff, even dietary stuff, working out a little bit, because you want to be there with your kids also, and you want to have fun with them, and, that's been the nice thing is that he understands what I do. He's gotten to tag along a little bit to certain things, and, it gets to be fun.
Well, plus, now
as
you
he
get,
answers
you
over
get to
here for
coach
me.
your kid.
Yeah, exactly. I coach. Coaching flag football is a lot of fun, and then I helped out with his baseball team the last couple of years. He enjoys that, and he wants me to still do that, and I plan on doing that. And it works out with the schedule that I have to where, especially during the football season, flag football, we have practice one night a week, and then our games are on Saturdays, and they're in the morning, so it doesn't interfere with a high school game that night if I have a high school game, or if I have something even at 12:30 in the afternoon, I could still make it in time because his games are over and I've got good enough time and opportunity to travel.
Did the family aspect change your end goal? Because mine constantly evolves, and I know a lot of people have that. It's based on what's in your life. What's the big goal,
I think it constantly changes that end goal because your end goal at one point was A, it becomes B, it goes to C, it becomes D. And, my end goal at first was 4 letters, and that's ESPN.
Which I imagine at one point is everybody's
goal. And we've had the opportunity, and I've applied for a couple of jobs at the Division I level and had some dialogue there. And if it's something that, my wife and I talked about it. If it were to happen, we would, we'd make the best of the situation. We'd make it work. We would find a way. But I am, for the first time, and you hearing this, because I don't think I've even said this to you. I'm okay. I think content's the word. I'm content being in Lima, Ohio. My family's here. My parents are here. My wife's family's 15 minutes away, if need be. I've got that base around me. Can I still do the things I want to do and have fun? Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to do it, and I'm going to have fun. But if the call comes, great. If not, I've done more in the 23 years in my broadcast career than some people do in 3 lifetimes.
Well, and for everyone who doesn't immediately know your resume, it's not like you haven't done Division I stuff.
Right. I'm lucky to do, I was, back to D1, just helped to start the Bowling Green radio network, which is now controlled by Learfield, and had the opportunity to do that. Still doing college stuff with the University of Northwestern Ohio with baseball and softball.
And the ever-adding things that keep coming up over there.
Yeah, oh my God, yes. And, they get eventually they're going to get a new gym built. They're might see football there down the line. I think the biggest reason they don't have it is the insurance factor right now, but I think someday that will happen. And if I'm blessed to be a part of those changes when they come with UNOH, then great. I've had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of great opportunities that a lot of people in this business I know would love to have, and are craving those opportunities, and with hard work, and potentially they could have those down the line, whether they're young or whether they're older people as well that maybe they got passed up for whatever reason. Just go out and grind. That's the biggest thing. You've got to work your butt off to achieve your goals, and some people can't do that.
Well, what's different in the last 23, and I know especially in the last, let's say, 6 or 7, is with the advent and really how it's come mainstream of internet broadcasting, and a lot of colleges, there are a lot of colleges that will do just their internet broadcast.
Yep.
Not only does that provide more opportunities, but it's also providing a lot of other people to compete for gigs against.
It is, and what is good about a lot of those internet and college gigs is the fact that it's got young people getting involved in the business. And that's something that, as a young person, I've always tried, whether it was you, a person...
youngish.
Yeah. Whether it was you, whether it's other people that I've talked to and helped guide over the years, whether they be in high school or in college, or even still, going to school for that type of stuff as well, just to go through the experience of everything, and to, get internships and, study, listen to people, watch how games are done, and just constantly learn. It's going to make things more, I guess you could say, competitive in the marketplace.
Is there, I have my own idea on this, but if you could tell a young person who wants to get into broadcasting, all right, for me, there's one thing you absolutely have to do to see how good you are. Is there a specific one?
There's a lot of things. First off, somebody comes to me and tells me they want to go into broadcasting, that I tell them. The first thing,
you ask them why.
Well, the first thing I say is have a backup plan. Then I ask them, I'll ask them why during the junction of it, but it's one of those things, Mike, where I think you need to practice. It's just not a God-given ability. Yeah, you can turn on a microphone and start talking, but there's more to it than that. There's more to, I guess, you could almost compare it to going through puberty. Your stuff's got to drop at some point. You've got to, your voice,
Otherwise, you got to euthanize it.
You're gonna be talking like, "Hi, how are you?" Then all of a sudden, you're gonna get the deep voice like this.
When they hire that new guy?
Yeah, exactly. You're going. You can't be afraid to be coached. You can't be afraid to take criticism. You can't be afraid to do puberty. Yeah. You can't be afraid of criticism, I think, is the biggest word. Because if you've got thin skin and every little thing bothers you, or if your supervisor says, "Hey, that's not good, it's not acceptable," then you absolutely positively will not survive in this business. And I've seen people who think their stuff doesn't stink, that are no longer in the business because they couldn't adapt, they couldn't evolve, and they couldn't accept criticism. I mean, and that's how a lot of younger people flame out in this business.
Lately and in life. That's another conversation for another day. That's a societal conversation. And that's interesting, too, because there's a big debate about, and neither one of us really fit part of this category of, okay, if you don't go to school, you can't be a good broadcaster.
Got a trivia question for you. Peter Jennings, ABC News. God rest his soul. In our world, we say triple dots, dead. How long did he go to college?
I don't know, a year?
Ha! Before when he got into broadcasting, he hadn't been to college.
But
he may have gotten his degree in time. I don't know.
It's a different time, though.
Right. But, I went to college for 3 weeks, and it wasn't for me. I left, came back 5 years later, went to school for a year with a major on something completely different because I wanted to have that backup plan. someday I do want to finish college because I want to be an example to my kids of, hey, you can do it if you put your mind to it, if you work hard. And I think that, and that's not just in broadcasting or in education, that's just in the game of life. You can do it if you put your mind to it and if you work hard. And I'm not even telling you to believe either.
These are all wrestling references he's dropping if you're not getting this. If you're not a big wrestling fan. But yeah, again, it's the other side of it where I went for a semester.
Mm-hmm.
Due to some things in my personal life, whatever, it didn't work out.
Right.
And I have always kind of... there are a lot of people I know, and it's not meant as a slight, it's just a fact, that have went through 4 years of college and broadcasting and taken all these classes and whatever, and they can't do it.
Right.
Like, I am of the belief that I'm decent at what I do. And I can't say college helped me do that. I'd say, learning helped me do that. I mean, like you said earlier, listening to people, listening to the guys do it, that the biggest thing, not emulate anybody, but kind of, oh, well, this works.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take a little of this. Let me take a little of that. Oh, look, I can form sentences now.
It's like going to the garden, so to speak, and you pull out tomatoes, you pull out green beans, you pull corn, you're pulling different things, you're digging out onions, stuff like that. You're pulling out, and you're getting certain things from certain people. But at the same time, you're doing everything to carve your own niche. Do we steal from each other? Absolutely. This business is 99.9% stolen over the years, but you can still take it and create your own niche with it as well.
That's it's such a weird fine line, though. Like, so I know a lot of people who, and hey, right, wrong, and different. How you do your stuff is not how I do mine. Everyone's different, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I know a lot of people who kind of listen to someone and then just adapt that personality.
Yeah.
And then wonder why, things aren't going my way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what makes you stand out? And second, what makes you different than that guy?
Well, you have to be genuine. You have to relate. You have to be someone that the listener can relate to. And this is the program director side of me coming. Is, coaching talent.
It's one of the other... He's changing hats right now.
Yeah. I got the sombrero on right now. Olay. Where's my salsa? Anyways, here's the thing. You've got to...
At Matthews_show. That's where the problems go.
I thought they went to Wienerman 46.
Oh no, that one's you.
I'll gladly take that one. But you've got to be yourself. You've got to be genuine. You've got to be authentic. You've got to be real. The new kids of the kids of these days say keeping it 100. And yeah, you know what? You do have to keep it 100. You got to be yourself. You can be yourself with the volume turned up to 50. When I'm on a mic, that's me. You've also got to be able to dial it back. And I think that's one of the things, part of the evolution. I've learned to dial it back. I had to dial it back. Because as quick as you've got it is as quick as it can be taken away.
Talking about learning earlier on, back to that for a second. What's one of the things I laugh about is the terrible places and terrible situations that I've been in. Is there one for you that sticks out of something where either you've been put in a really horrible place to call from, or just everything went wrong and you still had to try and push through it?
I've had, I mentioned being outside of a press box, which was basically a shanty in 90-degree heat, calling semi-pro football. I've done games literally from the end zone.
On a hill, wasn't it?
No. The one in Detroit is what I'm talking about. We were in an end zone when we got there. The field wasn't painted, and they were using rollers to paint lines on the field. I've been in gyms where they've killed the power as soon as the game is over, which has knocked me off the air because you're drawing off
everyone has had that.
I mean,
I have that at least twice a week. during basketball season.
Maybe you need to look into better equipment.
Maybe I need to get done quicker. Maybe that's what it is.
That's part of it. And we'll talk. We're going to get the GYSI in, by the way. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But I think we all have our peaks and valleys. But the thing is that I've learned is I'm not going to dwell on those. I don't let those hold me down. I don't let those type of situations dictate, how I feel. Am I upset about that it happened? Yeah, but you know what? I'm just as happy, when I'm done, that at the end result, I know that I was bringing this broadcast to somebody who couldn't be there, or to a family member that's, out on the West Coast, or somebody who's a supporter / has kids at the school who's literally out of the country on business.
And especially the semi-pro, where you never know where people's families might be.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, whether it be semi-pro football, whether it be high school football, basketball, especially in the dynamic of this day and age, with people being overseas, whether it's, for military or business, when people can pull up your radio station or your online stream, and this is where online broadcasting has really become a beneficial toy as well, where they can pull it up and listen to things, whereas before that wasn't possible. I mean, streaming on the internet wasn't even around in 2004. I mean, it was very, very low-key, and basically major markets only, with corporate radio station dollars behind them, were the ones that were streaming their radio stations online. And now, everywhere you turn, you've got every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinking they're a broadcaster.
Which is not good.
Cannot be
just
good.
going to be honest with you. I know that's a me on a high horse thing, and this is not what this is designed for, but that's not good. Because it kind of paints everyone in the same corner.
Can I bring up something that happened? And those that know you and I probably have heard this story.
You can't say their name.
Oh, I'm not saying a name. Trust me, I'm not saying a name at all. But the absolute worst examples I have seen, and this isn't just one person, this is other people I've seen, are, you show up just as a game is getting ready to start, and you come in and you expect everything to be handed to you all of a sudden, and you want this, you want that, you want information. As the game's going on, you're coming up to broadcasters, trying to get information while trying to broadcast the game, too, which I don't know how the hell they're pulling that off.
Or the coaches.
Yeah.
While they're calling the game.
Yeah, but here's the worst. The worst I have seen was at a college level. Now, mind you, it was a college radio station. These kids didn't know any better. They literally showed up 2 minutes before kickoff and had nothing. They had nothing, and I felt bad for these guys. I mean, but the one on a quote-unquote professional level is someone who is, like I said, quote, professional, showing up all discombobulated, their equipment's all over the place. It was in a cardboard box, for God's sake. I mean, who's going to carry their stuff in that? At least have it in a bag with a logo on it or something. Whether it's Under Armour, Adidas, Snoop Dogg's face, I don't care. Just at least have some decorum or professional, and see how you act and shove your cell phone or whatever it is that you're using because, hey, this is how I got to broadcast because I'm still in the 19th century. It gives everyone that works their butt off a bad name, a bad look, a bad description. I know guys that bust their butts to do everything that they can with what they have, and they make their broadcast as best as they can be. But because we've got people that are in this business, allegedly, who think that they can just show up and do whatever and just come in and say, hey, I'm going to broadcast this game without getting permission, without going through channels. That's what gives those who work hard, whether you're working for the New York Mets, the Detroit Tigers, the Boston Celtics, or the Ottoville Big Green. It gives all that a bad name. Those broadcasters that, put in the work, that pay the price. End rant.
At Matthews_show. That's where your thoughts and reactions to that rant go. And I hope that that's going to be a very localized rant, by the way. It's a bigger part.
It's everywhere.
It's you can do that anywhere, but there's a difference. If you are doing things like that and you are genuine to people and you're respectful to people and you're trying to make your way up, okay, that's totally different, but what he's speaking about, that neither one of those things are true. And if you continue to treat people like that, my thought is you won't get anywhere.
2 years ago, Lima Central Catholic plays in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Part of a shootout for a day. Basically it's 5 showcase games. I had just so happened to talk to a guy that was a fellow media guy that was covering the events. He was Flying the Hoop, ironically. And just got to talking, and he said, hey, I come down to watch LCC play that day. So comes and watches that, and I contact him. He gets me in contact with the school. The school gets me set up courtside, and we're not the last game of the night. Courtside, what do you need? We don't have a phone line, but we've got stuff ready to go. Whatever you need to broadcast. And you have no idea how many times people in schools are appreciative of you coming and doing that stuff. And it's the stuff like that you're going to remember, whether your broadcast was great, no matter how the quality was. If it was on a cell phone, Verizon box, or Sprint or whatever, or if it was on a computer, on a 3G broadband card that keeps dropping in and out. Stuff like that, it also is going to keep you thinking to yourself, hey, I really did make a difference. I made an impact that day.
Well, and I know you not as much now because you don't do it, but I get that a lot with some of the places we go to do girls basketball. Mm-hmm. Because, all right, if you look at it as a whole, in high school athletics, the money is in boys' sports.
Yes.
So, if you go and you do these girls' games in random places like I've been over the last handful of years, people are really, like you said, really appreciative of, hey, and we've gotten that too, where last year we went to a couple of places to do away games that we got the red carpet treatment. And it was like, what? You're at our random Tuesday night game? Mm-hmm. Well, we're not here for you, but yes.
Right. Yeah.
I mean...
Oh, and that happens, it's been lucky because it goes into the relationships that you build. You contact schools before, you say, hey, I'm coming, I want to do this game, or, just so you know, we do all their games to begin with, yada, 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 so on and so forth. And, you build that relationship with them in advance. They're glad to see it. They're going to be appreciative because you took time out of your schedule to make time for them. They don't need you in the long run. Most places, they don't even want you, but you know what? They're going to give you the professional courtesy and treatment that, to get your job done as well.
Which, and you can, if you do it the other way, you can very much quickly burn that bridge.
Yeah, you can burn that bridge, you can torch that bridge, you can be banned from state tournaments, all sorts of stuff.
Moving on. Okay, so now the normal play-by-play questions, since we've totally gone off this topic. An average game, whether it be, and it differs obviously between football, basketball, what have you, but how much or how often do you spend on one game? Like, we're a week from high school football starting in Ohio.
Yes.
How long will you spend for... Well, the first game is always different. But how long will you spend for an average LCC game?
The average, I would say for a football game is close to 10 hours in the week.
I said that number to somebody, and they thought I was insane.
Now, I will say that. I will predicate it with this. I can do 7. I can do 10. It just that there's so many different variables. If it's a team that I know, then I don't have to spend as much time because I know what they're doing. I know their consistency is, and that's what's the nice thing about these local teams. When for example, for Lima Central Catholic, when they were playing local teams, I could do 7 hours every week because I knew what they were doing. I knew their tendencies. I knew what they were doing. And watching game film, I include in that because I'm lucky that I get access to game film, whether it be the scout film or the actual game film from LCC as well. But anywhere from 7 to 10 hours per week. The first week is always the worst for me because of my other duties. I have so many other things because, they think, you're just a broadcaster. That's not exactly true because you're lucky. And I'm gonna real talk you for a second. You don't have to worry about, 2 other radio stations. Being on the air on a 3rd radio station. Having, everything ready to go for your announcers for, your pregame show, your postgame show. You don't have to do stuff like that. I've got to throw that stuff together, make sure that all of our other broadcasters have that too. It just is encompassed in the job responsibilities and duties, and that's just how modern day broadcasting works in a lot of smaller markets where you're wearing multiple hats. But this week, next week, I would say I'll start Sunday. I'll talk to Elidas coach because that's who Lima Central Catholic will play. I'll get some stuff from him. We'll set up a time to do an interview. I'll meet up with him one-on-one in person to do our interview. That'll take about a half hour of my time, putting charts and all that other stuff. So the first week will take about 10 to 12. But going forward, I'm looking at anywhere between 7 and 10. For basketball, looking at about 2 hours, depending if it's just a single game. If it's a Friday, Saturday, Saturday's usually about an hour if it's a local team.
This is pretty much just an update of the night before.
Right, and I keep my own stats, so I just update my stuff and then jot it into my book and go from there.
Well, the one nerd part of that is I have way too much information already for week one. I've tried to cobble a little here, a little there. I think week one is the easiest for me in terms of doing it, but it's great having the same team every week because then you already know half the information.
Right.
I was there for that.
Right, and another thing, too, that I encourage people to do if they are the voice of one specific team is go to practice. Watch the kids. If they say hi to you, say hi back. And that's one of the blessings to me of my position doing the Lima Central Catholic games is I have gotten to know the kids away from the practice field, away from
well, and it
the
helps
gym.
you tell. For me, I would think it would help you tell a story better too.
Absolutely.
'Cause by the time that kid's a junior, you can hark back to between his freshman and sophomore year, blah blah blah.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And it goes back to relationship building. You're building relationships with these kids, and in turn, you don't realize it, but you're building relationships with their families and their relatives that are away, or their aunt or uncle that can't go to the game but has to listen that week. And even it has even helped build relationships with clients, which we're not in this business to get rich. Chances are you're not going to get rich, but
if you are, you're in the wrong business.
No kidding. But you've got an opportunity to help your parent company line the pocketbook, which in turn could give you a few extra dollars too.
You hope so, anyways.
Yeah. Check's got to clear.
And that's what was it? If you like short nights and a lot of money, you're in the wrong business.
Oh my God, yes.
Unless you're working extremely hard and you're really lucky. Who are some of the people for you? I know it changes throughout the course of the years where you go, okay, I picked a little bit of that, but this is a guy that I absolutely have to listen to.
Paul Keels is still a big influence on me. Always has been. Guy that I'm really big on right now is Kevin Kugler with Big Ten Network and Westwood One. He's doing. He did the College World Series which was a great gig for him because he's from Omaha. He didn't have to travel to do that.
Plus, it's a beautiful park.
Yes. He's also doing USA Basketball from the Olympics right now, which is great. One of my stations is carrying that, by the way, just to get that plug in.
Which station? What's their website?
It's not streamed because we can't stream it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
But we could stream the College World Series, which was awesome. Can't stream the Olympics, though.
I forgot about that.
But I'm
$1.2 billion will do that to you.
a big Kugler fan. I like a little bit of everybody. I mean, it just depends on what they do and how they bring it. Mario Mpemba from the Detroit Tigers, I'm a big fan of what he does from a baseball perspective. Len Casper, who does the Cubs games.
He's awesome.
I love Len Casper. But Jim DeShays, his color guy, is the worst in baseball history. He's horrible. I could listen to Marty Brenneman every night. Marty Brenneman could read me bedtime stories if I was to go to bed at a decent hour, and I would enjoy that.
Marty goes to bed at like 10, I think. I don't think that would work.
I don't know. That question is, there's so many guys. Kevin Harlan is a guy I like. I like Joe Buck. I know there's a lot of people that don't.
Let's do this for a second. I don't understand why people don't like Joe Buck. I love Joe Buck.
They don't like Joe Buck because he's been force-fed down their throats and he didn't have to pay his dues.
I don't think that's true.
Meaning, and here's
right. That's the
because
misconception,
of his dad.
though. Yeah, he actually, I've read a lot of stuff about Joe Buck, and not only for my money is he one of the coolest people to interact with that I've seen of him, but I think he had to work twice as hard to get away from Dad's shadow. Like, I've never gotten that personally. Like, everything that I've seen about him, and this is like a huge thing among broadcasters. You pretty much feel one way or the other. But I love Joe Buck. Hey, I'm not going to knock the man for his hustle.
Right.
I on a way smaller scale, try and hustle like Joe Buck.
A couple weeks ago, when John Saunders passed, the next morning I was doing mornings on our sports talk station, and we did the Mount Rushmore of sportscasters, and you were allowed one honorable mention, Doc Emmerich. From a hockey perspective, good.
Now he's doing baseball too.
Yeah, doing some baseball stuff. But,
Pirates.
Yep, you got him. I had Bob Costas on there just for his work pre-Botox. How can you not have a Keith Jackson and Al Michaels on there? But Al Michaels, I would say, if you had to you told me you have one guy to call your life as a game, I think it would probably be Al Michaels.
As a game?
Call your life as a game. You have to use a sportscaster to call your life, to broadcast your life. I'm 99% certain it would be Al Michaels.
Honestly, I have two.
Okay.
Well, it's three, but it depends on how you verse or how you quantify sportscaster. Because there are a handful of great influences in my life in terms of, like he was talking about earlier, I do pro wrestling and a little bit of everything. Well, Jim Ross would be in that list, but that depends on how you quantify sportscasting. Mm-hmm. The other way, it would either be, there's only two guys, and ironically they're both baseball guys. The great Vin Scully, because he told a story about a haircut that went on for an inning, and the whole time I just sat by my computer with my hands on my face, just like, please tell me more. Or Len Casper. And for the reason that I am a big proponent of sports infotainment. Mm-hmm. I want to tell you a story, but I don't want it to be just peanut butter. I want to give you a different kind of jelly, and he will work in social media, and he's amazing at that pop culture. I love when he goes off the book and just harkens something back to a Batman reference. Because I laugh because I'm like, I thought the same thing. So I think they would have to be on my list.
Well, and they're both great at what they do. It's there's just something about Al Michaels. I've always, and maybe it was the "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes. And he's never had anything green enter his mouth, knowingly. Told that story on Dan Patrick Show. It was rather interesting.
Okay.
Look it up.
Okay. When you actually do drive places, like we talked about, I'm such a Catholic this year, not playing a local schedule. What podcast or what do you listen to on the way? If you're not on the phone making big business deals.
Usually, okay.
Or seeing what the kids are up to.
Okay, if I'm driving, I'm going to quantify this two ways because, we talked about relationship building. For football, I ride with the assistants, which is great. Saves on driving.
True.
If I'm driving myself, I use that time to really get my mind focused on the task at hand. And as you know, if I'm in the car trying to get my mind right...
I mean, to be fair, I knew the answer to the question before I asked.
Yeah, there's something involving Dr. Dre.
Or DMX.
Or Def Leppard, Metallica. I'm a music guy when it comes to that type of stuff. And even as we get ready to go on with being on a classic rock station for the Lima Central Catholic games, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hear Def Leppard and Metallica, one or the other, or both, right before it's time to hit the open.
Is that because that's how you want it?
Yes, that's how, and I get to handle that. It's to each his their own. Some people I know will listen to a podcast or something. They'll listen to sports radio. It just depends. Sometimes I have my music up really loud. Sometimes I barely have it on. Sometimes on Snapchat, we'll do the car ride with Matthews, and the song comes on, we're rolling video on it. I'll tell you what, that was a fun road. I did that last year for a road trip going to Defiance.
I kept getting messages and was like, what is going on?
And it was just lyrics of songs, really, really loud.
Really loud. The first one, I think it turned my volume on.
Not bad for using a Lincoln.
Right.
Tested that old man system out.
Right.
Tell it wasn't my car.
This is Dan Marino's car.
Oh, he drove the hell out of that.
Yeah, he drove that car a lot. I don't know. Like, I found lately that I listen to podcasts to learn stories. Like, I learned a lot. There's Logan Anderson has one called Say the Damn Score.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great podcast.
I love that podcast.
Kugler did that back in April after the NCAA tournament.
It's phenomenal. I'm trying to get on it. But I told him I'd wait till he scrapes the bottom of the barrel. No, he does a great job, though. I mean, I've listened to a lot of... we're big wrestling fans, obviously, so a lot of Chris Jericho, Steve Austin, because... And I found myself a lot lately listening to the WTF podcast with Mark Maron. Mm-hmm. I wish I had started that earlier.
I've listened to that one a little bit.
Because it's some of the fun... I'll send you a couple of them, because it's some of the funniest things I've heard.
I listened to Austin's, because that's my dude. Jim Ross, I listen to his a lot. Actually, the one I listened to, which surprised the heck out of me a couple weeks ago, I actually was working on some stuff at work, and I didn't want to listen to the radio. So I popped up Conan's podcast, and had Eric Bischoff on. How much did they talk wrestling?
Probably not at all.
They didn't.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And Bischoff has launched one as well, which I haven't checked yet. But I'm going to. But Jim Ross, as I mentioned that one, I really enjoy what he does. Jericho's has been great lately with Shinsuke Nakamura and Bailey on there. Those two in the same, basically a week apart, was awesome.
By the way, again, back to this for I promise the final time. If you're a wrestling fan, this weekend is like Christmas.
This is the next best thing to WrestleMania this weekend.
It's August 18th as we tape this. WWE is doing 2 sold-out shows this weekend at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. And if you're even a casual wrestling fan and you hear this, get your free month of the WWE Network and at least watch NXT on Saturday night. Binge watch the entire Cruiserweight Classic as quickly as possible, and then watch SummerSlam on Sunday.
You know, that is the single best monthly investment that I make.
$10 comes out of my account, and I'm like, that's the best money I spent.
Yeah, I mean, and I've had it literally since day one.
Why'd I spend $5 on a cheeseburger? I spent $10 on the network.
You gotta eat.
Right.
But I remember when they launched the network, I took 2 days off from work. A, because I was getting ready for the basketball tournament, because I knew it was going to be balls to the wall for the next 4 weeks. But B, to just watch a whole bunch of stuff that harkened back to my youth. And it's funny because as we record this, we're at my house. I'm on vacation this week.
Clearly.
And I've got a dumpster in my driveway of stuff that, that we're getting rid of. And I got rid of some old VHS tapes because...
A landfill in Jersey that's going to love you.
Because it's at my fingertips anytime.
Well, they say if you watched it for 8 hours a day, it'd take you 2.5 years.
Yes.
And that's if they never added anything else.
Yeah. I found Shotgun Saturday Night, by the way, like the first 2 years of it. I'm keeping those videotapes.
Yeah. So...
Back when Shotgun was worth a damn when they do it in the bars.
Being a Detroit fan, we hit the last couple of things here. Tigers are on the TV right now.
Yes.
Thoughts on, are you more happy about the new $500 million arena or more sad that JLA is going bye-bye?
Love JLA, but time for JLA to go. I love the new arena. I love what it's going to be. I just wish, personally, it was not Little Caesars Arena. I wish I'm on the Gordie Howe Arena train.
We call it the Ilitch Center?
Whatever. I mean, I understand, Little Caesars Palace, whatever you want to call it. it is what it is. People sometimes make too much about these naming rights and stuff like that. Hey, we all got to make a buck. You know, we're not whoring ourselves out to do it. You've got people out there that want to do it. Then by God, they're going to do it. I mean, look at Buffalo, the New Era Stadium, replacing the naming rights to Ralph Wilson Stadium. But Comerica Park,
I still say the Jake.
I still say the Jake when it comes to Cleveland as well.
Well, Cleveland look at me funny, like progressive. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's still the Jake. Obviously, Comerica Park is Comerica Park because that's what it's been since it was opened. I do miss the old corner of Michigan and Trumbull, but I love Comerica. It's a beautiful place.
We spent many a double.
Oh my God, have we ever? So, but it's just, I don't know. I'm glad to see a new place come up. The worst part about it, though, that makes me the most bothered, if you want to say the word bothered about it, I lost my parking spot.
Yeah.
I lost my parking spot. I used to park where the new arena is, pay $10, and walk across the bridge, go past Hockeytown Cafe to the Fox Theater, hang the left, go past the Episcopal Church, see the Eat 'em Up Tigers guy, God rest his soul,
God rest his soul,
and go to the ballpark. But it's okay. I'm not going to lie. I'm really looking forward to the first time I go into that place.
I find it, yeah. I never even thought about that that's where that was at.
Yeah.
Man.
I mentioned that and your eyes were like, oh, man.
I didn't even think of that. We spent so many time where we parked there. Easy to get in, easy to get out.
Yes.
Great.
Right back on 75, super quick.
Yeah, we didn't end up in Canada.
Hey.
Which is a good thing. Okay, current Netflix obsession as we wrap this up?
Honestly, nothing.
Really?
I have not had time for Netflix. Just with work and
Sorry, we were looking for Last Chance U. That was the
how about I go with this? I'm going to defer to the little man. And whatever he's watching on Netflix at
Harry
the moment.
Potter.
No, he wants to watch that. His brother is upstairs.
Best song for you going into this football season that you're going to hear over and over or played over and over?
Oh,
because I know that's as a production thing.
Oh, well, my open, which is great because even though I'm not the program director of the station the LCC games is on, I get to do all the production for football. My open this year is the beginning of Wherever I May Roam by Metallica. So that, of course, gets me going. The open for our sports station I stole from Ballers. If you want to give me a show obsession, it's Ballers right now.
I do want to pay $17 a month for HBO. I ain't got that big Aaron Matthews money.
I keep HBO for Ballers and Hard Knocks. That's it right now. But Lil Wayne right above it still gets me, even though it's a few years old. There's a new song out that I was listening to the other day, I heard, and I don't know when it's going to hit as far as like top 40 radio. I'll give you the edited title of it is No Apologies. Remember JoJo back in the day?
Yeah.
Well, she did this song, and Wiz Khalifa's on it with her, and I heard it about 2 weeks ago, and it got stuck in my head.
I heard that on Sirius.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but take out the no and put another word there.
Uh-huh.
That song, straight fire. I was very impressed with that. So I think that's one that's going to get stuck in my head. It might be something you hear come October, but I don't know. I would say leaning more the, that classic rock, maybe some of the Drake, that type of stuff. That, depending on what you hear in the stadiums, depending on where you're at, depending on what the schools allow too, because that's such a big thing. Can't have anything with any cursing in it. But you can have
surprised the amount of schools I still hear that.
But you can have a song about them going to the strip club in the warm up. But you can't have anything with curses. No curses, but we can talk about going to the strip club, making it rain.
Final piece of advice for young broadcasters.
Whew.
That we might not have already covered. Sporadically throughout the course of this.
Always have a backup. Always have a plan B. I suggest going to school, getting your degree, having that plan B, because this is a business that you don't know. There's no guarantee of forever. There's no guarantee of forever in anything anymore. But have a plan of attack. Work your butt off. Don't be afraid to network, but at the same time, and don't be afraid to be, I'm not trying to say cocky, and I'm not trying to say arrogant.
Sure.
Be confident. Confident will be the word that I'll use. Be confident in what you do, but know that you can always do better. And whether it's football, basketball, volleyball, baseball, softball, Quidditch, whatever, just
Water polo.
Water polo,
Lacrosse.
horse racing. I don't care. It just, try to be the best that you can be. Study yourself and learn. If you have a question, don't be afraid to ask. Because if you don't ask and somebody can help you, you're going to come across as that arrogant prick that nobody eventually is going to want to help out.
This is the point where you plug all of your social media and stuff like that.
At Matthews_show. Facebook basically has that. It's Aaron Matthews on Facebook. But Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, at Matthews_show. I try to keep those all the same thing. It's just passwords are different.
I heard a rumor there's an Aaron Matthews website.
Yes, thematthewsshow.com is out as well. I just launched that back in April, I believe. It's either April or May. Put that up.
Which, by the way, is another good piece of advice. Always have a website and always keep your demo current.
Yeah, you don't even have to have a website. Just have something that's relevant.
Well, I was saying that there's a place you can do it a Wix account.
Yeah, and that's
You can
exactly
build that in 10 minutes.
That's exactly what I did I used Wix for mine. But even if you have like a personality page for Facebook,
A like page.
a business page or whatever, you don't have to have your demos posted on there, but have links to them. I don't post my resume and stuff like that because my contact information, if they need it, they can get it from me. That doesn't need to be out there anymore. As far as personal, because you got to have that line between personal and a lot of times, and I've seen this with people, and I'm not trying to get back on a soapbox, is a lot of people try to intertwine their personal with the professional, and I think you've got to have that balance. You got to have that line, because as I have found, and maybe in marriage has done this to me, my personal time is mine. It's not yours. It's not anybody else's. It's that piece of sanity that I still have at the end of the day.
Whatever that may be.
Exactly. There's a little bit there.
Well, I'm glad we got to do this.
My pleasure.
What's the one thing you have coming up you're most looking forward to?
Oh, easy. It's the grind of Lima Central Catholic football and basketball, especially on the basketball side, because you've got a team that's won 2 state titles in 3 years, and it's going to be interesting, to put it mildly. They still might win 15, 16 games and maybe even get to the regionals. You never know. Football's going to be fun, so obviously that. But I'm really looking forward to doing TV volleyball for WOSN here locally as well, and getting the opportunity to do that and do some football for them as well. So it's that great time of year where for the next 7 months I'm pretty busy, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Again, Matthews_show on the Twitter, and that's all we have. Thanks for joining us.
And we didn't even tell you the road stories.
And now we have to go. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
listening. Subscribe on iTunes. Goodbye.
Here I go. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Around the Hearn. Come back next week for more local stories from the NWO. But until then, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Michael Hearn PBP for more great area content.